let's go ahead and get started. I have a little presentation up, but I just want everybody to know that we're not going to really tie this discussion to a presentation the entire time. But our topic today is managing uncertainty, which, boy, in hindsight, it sounds so negative, right? But I think we all know that we're in a time right now where it's really hard to buy coffee. It's like prices are increasing and logistics is hell. It's really hard. Some of the folks that I assist with purchasing of coffee, everything is late and delayed, and they're scrambling for spot coffees to fill holes, but spot inventories are really thin right now. So kind of in this era, right, of increasing costs and challenges of sourcing coffee, you also have the kind of ongoing uncertainty around COVID, which seems to just be cycling back around with new variants and mandates and lockdowns and things in parts of the world. So it is a time of uncertainty. And I think, though, the sort of positive spin on this is, and what Daniel and I really are going to talk about today, is what tools are out there and what processes can you put in place. This is, of course, it's a Cropster webinar and it's about Cropster, but also it's about taking our experience and exploring ways that you can operate a tight ship at your roasting company, operate efficiently, save money on your production floor by saving time, things like that. And so, Daniel, why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit and some of your background and experience both at Cropster and before, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so I started back in 2011, I think, roasting, as a barista in Body Brew Coffee, and then Body Brew let me join the roasting team, and that's how everything started, and then moved to Denver, roast for Corvus, and then got saved by Huckleberry, which I think I got the majority of. That was kind of my finish of that roasting career there, but I got to learn so much of those three companies. And then after that, I just focused in green coffee and in Roasters Guild, and start helping other roasters in Denver learn how to use the majority of the machines, and then learn about the ingredients like itself, the green coffee, and then switch to tea, and then came back again. Cropster took me out of the tea, and but in the meantime, since I started working in like the tea, I always help roasters with Cropster, and so that side gig, like helping them, then kind of give me the door open for starting a Cropster. That has been a really good experience to talk to so many people about roasting and about the way that they perceive the coffee industry and how they manage it. So that's kind of my small experience, I guess. As I was mentioning in the beginning, I finished just roasting like 2,000 pounds a week, I think. And so be surrounded by friends like Shelby that roast now like almost 30,000 pounds a month. It's amazing. So, and Cropster gives you that, like, we are surrounded by so many good roasters and different sizes. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's kind of an intro, but.
No, that's great. That's great. And I see we have some more attendees who have come in now, which is great. Maybe Shelby, as having gone through that growth, would be willing to share a little bit later on about what it took to kind of manage that growth and prepare for it, because it's not easy. Daniel, it's cool to be working together. Daniel and I are colleagues here at Cropster. I think I first met you
Corvus in Portland in the coffee.
I was in Portland. I was trying to sell Corvus coffee. I was living in Rwanda and working with coffee producers and helping them set up some cooperatives and find a market for their coffee and working on quality improvements and things. And Corvus was always a fan of Rwandan coffee and not afraid of Rwandan coffee, which was cool.
Mm-hmm. So for cold brew, they have a huge Rwanda for cold brew. Yeah, I remember.
So it's cool because I've been in coffee geez, I don't know, almost 20 years now, and got my start at Pete's Coffee of all places, just working in retail. Um, Coffee was a major career shift for me from what I did through my 30s. So, and I landed and have never looked back. And I've done everything from retail management and advising to coffee buying and roasting. I started 2 roasting companies of my own that sort of always stayed a little bit on the small side, although the company Question Coffee that I started in Rwanda with
Oh, that was you, the one next to the hospital?
yeah, I started that company.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I couldn't go in because of COVID, but I saw it. I drive through it. They showed me. Kevin
Yeah,
showed me.
that's
Question
cool.
coffee.
And that's grown quite a bit. It's the nice thing in Rwanda is the government has a
Mhm,
large roasting machine, so
mhm.
they do they're
Aprobat, right?
yeah, like a 1 bag or 2 bag Probat. I don't remember. Um, but yeah, it was cool. So we had like a shop roaster and could do shop roasting and the more kind of boutique coffees and things for the cafes there. But when there were larger scale orders for like the Marriott Hotel and things in Rwanda, we could fulfill those with the government's roaster,
That's
which is
cool.
cool.
I was never brave to start my own. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I started it with Sustainable Harvest Coffee Importers, and we had a grant from Bloomberg Philanthropy. Um, and part of that grant allowed us to try things like increasing local consumption and keeping more coffee in the country, and having a place to bring farmers to taste their coffee the way that the rest of the world would taste it. So it gave us freedom. I never had the bravery to do it either. So I started 2 companies, but both were with like nonprofits and with other people's money. Same with the company in Portland, Central City Coffee. Um, but yeah, for me, it's like through those experiences, and then later on through working at Boot Coffee as a trainer and like a business consultant for roasting companies, um, I came to rely much more on Cropster personally and see the value
Yeah.
in just having tools out there like that could help you to organize your day, that could help you to like plan your production, that could do more than just like draw a line on a graph. Um,
Yeah. So
which
interesting.
which is important, but it's like sort of everything that sits beyond that that I really started finding the value in, and that's kind of what ultimately brought me to Cropster, because I kind of really nerded out on roasting operations and seeing that there was like a tool that was functioning as the backbone, but that also didn't like tie you down to doing things only one way, was pretty
Yeah.
powerful.
That's what I learned through it too, because at Body Brew, the way we use it there, then at Corvus, the way we use it, and then Huckleberry, the way they use it. It's amazing how the personas, bigger the company, more people are using the software, which it was really, really interesting to see how much the impact of each member has on the software, and then to get the data back to make decisions, which is really cool, because the production roaster is inputting something that then the head roaster is taking that data back to make decisions for the production roaster to apply again. So it's just such a nice thing to see. And then in Huckleberry, the green buyer is buying these coffees with these attributes, and then the head roaster takes in consideration to develop the profile of the production. So it's just like a cycle, right? Like more you grow, more members are part of the software that helps all of them make decisions, which is
Right. Yeah, which kind of brings us to our agenda today. This is a very loose agenda because what we really want to hear is from those of you that are attending, and any ideas that you have, any questions that you have, any suggestions that you have about, running a like sort of successful and like operationally tight roasting company. Um, we'll end this presentation soon, and Daniel and I will just talk and share some screen shares of the actual tools in Cropster. But for me, there's really 3 primary areas where a roastery can really save money by kind of tightening their protocols. And one is like everything to do with like green coffee, from sampling and purchasing to managing inventory and knowing when you're running low, being able to forecast and predict when you need to reach out to your importers, having the tools to easily share results, good or bad, back to your suppliers, that kind of whole bucket that Daniel mentioned, like what the green buyer is worried about. And at the same time, what the accountant is worried about, right? Because I worked with a lot of green buyers, and I always think that relationship is the most successful when there's people from the sales team in those discussions, people from like finance or like, C-level decision makers there as well, to make sure that there's some rigor behind what coffees are being bought.
No, and green inventory even covers not just the green, it's all about the transportation, the shipping, and it's so
Yeah.
much involvement in that as you mentioned, the green buyer along with the accounting or budgeting, how
Yeah.
to arrange all that, especially for like holidays, for example, that is the biggest season for roasters, how to prepare for that, to not have issues of running out of coffee in such an important season, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the green inventory management.
That's perfect. So yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. And then I think that segues into like production planning. And maybe just in the chat, if anybody wants to share, how much time do you spend on an average roast day doing things like aggregating orders um, and pulling together orders from wholesale accounts, from retail accounts? Then how do you convert those things into a production plan at the roaster, so that you don't make mistakes, but you keep your customers happy? There's my buddy Valerian in the background coming in and out of his office. I'm holed up in his office today. And yeah, and as Shelby says, like she's taking like an hour a day to do that. And so I think anywhere that we can explore more efficient ways to build a production plan with fewer errors, it makes customers happy, it saves the company money.
And
And then
troubleshooting, that's something it's always nice to hear. Every time I talk to people, I want to learn more about the troubleshooting. What happened if? What is the protocol when something doesn't work? Like the bag broke and all the coffee went to the ground. What's next? For me, the troubleshooting is so much key, because everybody should be prepared for a troubleshoot, because the time you take to think is the one that kills you.
yeah, true.
So it's always nice to hear those conversations with different roasteries, how they approach errors, human errors. We are humans, we are going to have accidents. The pallet went down the ground, like fall, destroy all the bags. FedEx pallet just went down on the truck,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we all know like we should be storing our coffee bags up off the ground, but sometimes a bag sits on the ground for a short time, and I've seen a mop bucket spill, and boom, it's done, right?
Yeah, like we have one of the roasters here in Denver. The pipe got got frozen, and it just broke, and all the bags, man, the roasted everything flood. That was in a night. So it's just like one mistake that people didn't insulate that or whatever it was.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah, and then I think the last bullet point here is like what's actually happening on the roasting floor.
Yes.
And how can you be more efficient, right? It's I don't know about you, Daniel, but I've definitely visited and been to plenty of roasteries where if I sort of stand there and watch, I see people maybe only roasting 2 batches per hour. And so if you move back to 3 or 4 batches per hour with like short time in between, that's like real time and money saved, right? Where a well-paid roaster and their salary and benefits and everything that it takes to operate the machine, it's just money left on the ground. So
I remember roasting in a shop. That was the most inefficient way, because you are roasting and then customers come and talk to you.
Yeah.
And you just notice, shoot, I haven't started this batch, and it's already like 20 minutes answering questions and things. So working from a shop, moving to a warehouse was a completely 180 degrees to learn efficiency. How much I was just losing an hour. In a way, my production cost producing just 2 batches, so expensive. And then I'm waiting, my people are waiting for bagging coffee. It just delays the whole production line.
Yeah, there's That's a future webinar that I would like to have. I've played some phone tag with the owner of a pretty important roasting company that started off roasting in their shop and moved to a warehouse, because I want to have this exact conversation. So
Yeah.
hopefully that comes up soon.
Yeah. And the phones, man, the phones are our biggest enemy for efficiency in the roasting side. Answering a text, I always say, it's like driving, man. You are not looking at, you're answering a text and you forgot to charge the coffee. Now you have to wait again for your batch protocol to do it again. So it's really, really interesting.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well, yeah, well, Daniel, let's kind of start this off. I mean, I just want to hear, from you. Like, let's start with this green inventory piece of it. And I don't know if you want to kind of talk through it, then maybe you can share your screen and share Cropster a little bit to even show some of the tools are in there. But I think to start, let's just like kind of leave it open and even leave it open for our attendees here now that we have some more. And let's what are some challenges that folks are having like right now or just in general with managing green inventory, either at your company or in other companies that you've been around?
Well, it just always depends on the size, right? How important it's the inventory management, right? We are used to think that smaller you are, it doesn't matter that much. But in my learning curve, is smaller you are, the better practices you can start your foundation as a company, creating protocols that you are just you and maybe a person bagging. It's easier to create protocols. You have more time preparing to grow, right?
Yeah.
So inventory management, I learned it after how important it is, especially with shipping situations and any time of the year is something's gonna happen, weather things. So one of the most expensive are two things: running out of coffee, losing a pallet, and forget that you already contracted coffee that you didn't know and you forgot about it. So those three for me was the experience of pain, that the pallet got lost. So I need to have a plan B right away, right?
Yep.
So because then the discussion with you start fighting with the shipping company and so on, but that's something that is going to take lots of months. So you have to have a plan B. What happened if a pallet got lost? What's the next step, right? And then the second one is contracted coffee. Like sadly, we start buying and buying and buying, and then we start using, and then we forget. We leave it in a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet get lost or something, and then we don't even know that we bought this coffee, and now remember it's there. But for all that situation, that's why how you manage your purchases, how you're managing your coffee, where it's located, how can you bring it, and so on.
Yeah, it's such a big issue. I mean, as somebody who sold green coffee for a while, it always becomes this uncomfortable discussion when you have a customer that has inventory that they've forgotten about, that they haven't released in months and months or even a year. And I used to sell coffee to some pretty significant roasting companies, and when you call them up and you let them know that they have like 6 containers that are on their position that are now a year old, like that's a ton of money. It's a ton of inventory that like the importer's been carrying and paying for and needs to transfer to their position. And it also
it's as painful. It's as painful as a small person having just one pallet that you forgot about it versus container for the beginning. I think the pain is the same.
It's the same. Yeah, it's all just a matter of scale. And it's like, and what do you do with that coffee then when you get it? I mean, either you have to sell it at a loss, right? Because it's now degraded and it moves more into like a commercial market, or you need to find a way to roast it and do something with it. So yeah, having visibility into that is huge. While at the same time, like you said, not running out. I mean, I think something that we always need to keep in mind, and those of you who have watched my webinars before know that I'll often say this, like consistency is what customers want. I think, before they want delicious. Most of your customers probably want a consistent cup. So not running out or having a plan in place when you have to switch from a Guatemalan component to a Tanzanian component of your house blend, right? How do you do that in a way that it's not like a shock to the senses of your daily customers or the coffee houses that are buying your coffee every single week? Because they're going to notice if it's a hard cut, a hard change, even if the coffee gets better. So having visibility into what you have, where you have it, when you need to order.
Yes, and where is it allocated? Which shipping company you usually use? So all that can be useful through locations. Such a simple tool that we have, and it's in the 3 packages: Roast Foundation, Professional, and E-commerce. And it's such a simple tool that can fix so many of those issues, right?
Do you show, Daniel? Do you have your
yeah.
account up? Can you share your screen? And
yeah, because I talk, man. I'm glad you remind me of sharing the screen. Can you see it?
I can just see, it looks like a background
I don't know. I can.
in like a coffee field.
Why doesn't let me share that? Oh, here it is. Sorry. Boom.
Yeah, great, great.
And it's simple. It's here. More location. This is the demo account, of course. So we have multiple locations, and you can name it wherever you want to name it. It's something that is going to be helpful for you. Some
If I
roasters.
scroll down, right, I see like you've got warehouse. So
warehouses.
for those of us in the US, that might be the annex, or it might be the green room, or it could be
The extra warehouse, because you can even call, like I have Falcon as an imported, contracted coffee, another roastery. So you can have multiple names, whatever it helps you, right? Because you find like there is some roasters that I was talking last week that they use a lot of different importers from each region.
Yeah.
So they have a location from each imported, how much contracted coffee they have. And or you can filter it by size, amount, so you can know which coffees to order first. So the beauty of Cropster is it doesn't do anything new. It just does what you normally do. It just organizes it in one place.
But they see you have transit, right? And it's from Colombia. So presumably that's like, I could have multiple transit lots, right? I could have like an ocean freight transit for something that's on the water. I could also have transit, like, right? I could have Oakland Annex transit. I could have
and you put the shipping information, the tracking, so the roaster knows, instead of calling the green buyer, hey, what is my coffee? You just access, check transit, what is coming today. This is the tracking information, the company that is bringing it, and so on.
Okay, cool.
So
and can you show how that ties into what's happening with green inventory?
Yeah, so here is the green inventory, and then you can filter it by location, right? So if I want to see what is in transit right now, I just click transit. And right now I don't have anything to it. But let's say if I want to just order coffee today from a contracted coffee warehouse, let's see, contracted coffee, I think there is just like one lot. Let's say this 3, let's do this one. I'm going to order this. I'm going to manage warehouse distribution. I'm going to put the 300 kilograms on my transit. It's going to be 10 bucks, I think. No, let's do, how many bucks is there? 5. Let's move the 5 bags into transit.
Okay.
Boom. And then as soon as I do that, it's going to disappear in my contracted coffee, but it's going to be in the transit. And then as soon as let's say Cafe Imports or whatever imported is, hey, this is the tracking information for your, so it's already on notes because I already did this exercise. It's right here.
Cool.
You see, so I just filtered the green inventory by transit and it's right here. So I'm the green buyer, head roaster. I just ordered this coffee. That's all my protocol. Then the production roaster who is ready might have one more bag of Brazil. I need to know what's coming, when is it coming. So I just filter my location by transit. I know this is the Brazil that I ordered, I need to, and it's gonna land Friday. This is the shipping information. I can go and track it and so on. And as soon as I get here, I saw it in my warehouse. I just click this, manage And then just warehouse distribution. I got it in the roaster. Where is roastery? Boom, the 5 bags, boom, that's it. So my protocol, my next protocol is what? Creating profiles. And then the green buyer or the business owner can also check what is it coming. So he can also filter by, oh, nothing is coming, or the head roaster who placed the order, oh, the coffee's already landed, even without hacking to the production roaster. Just logging in, check what is in transit. If it's not there, that means it's already on the warehouse, right? So all is just by protocols. So,
but I mean, I can also imagine, right? Like importers are sending position reports probably on a monthly or quarterly basis to tell you what you have contracted, but that you haven't released. Right. So this should be a tool where you can easily compare just based on the location and the name of the coffee or your supply network, right? Your importer, and see, compare your records to their records, right? And look for discrepancies. So something that, you know, the business owner or the accounting department is going to be really interested in comparing. Really cool. Really cool.
And you can use the inventory report by location too.
Yep. Great.
And then you just go to the contracted coffee and see how many lots you had. You have 5 lots and so on. Of course, this is a demo account that doesn't have. I just move it to the roastery. So.
And so, just you would also mention though, like running out of coffee. I want to, move on to kind of production planning in a minute here, but what are some tools where if I'm the green buyer, you know, I can take a look at and see like, okay, like what coffees do I need to be thinking about replacing in the coming months?
There is 2 ways. First, my favorite one is the minimal inventory level. Like it's defined by each coffee where it's located, the main warehouse where you are bringing it from, because that's going to define what my limit is. So if let's say I buy this from Royal and it takes me 3 weeks to get that coffee here, I'm adding a week just for in case. So in those 3 weeks, how much coffee I'm using, that's going to be my minimal inventory level. Like in this case is 4. This is a 30 kilo box. I use 4 boxes in 3 weeks. So please, Cropster, let me know when that's going to happen. And then second, that is going to be more based on your production, is just the forecast that we do for you. Like based on this purchase that I just update here, and based on this production, this coffee is going to run out in January, right? So you have these 2 tools that are going to help you, right? So you have 2 options.
And you can do that run out estimation just on the main green inventory page, right? So at a glance, you can sort of see, whoa, this coffee is flagged. I better be looking for a new.
I always say to put a run estimation when you have more of this coffee.
Yeah.
And just use the forecast when this is the last coffee. So you already have to have planned what is going to be replaced, but always use the minimal inventory level when you have more, so you can order it on time and you don't run out of coffee of this, because you know you have customers already going to order this, or even your own shops.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, then it's going to be terrible.
And then just one tip, based on at least the way that I ran my roasting companies. We might have attendees who disagree with this, but like in the case of this coffee, it's used in a bunch of blends, right? And boy, you know, in these where it's just a blend component, where like the transparency of like sharing what that coffee is, I'm not selling it by its name, I'm selling it as part of a blend. I would probably want to bring my new coffee in when I'm about a month from running out. And I would actually start changing these profiles to start blending the old coffee and the new coffee together to make the switch to the new blend component more gradual. So in the case of this Gitutu, I might use 70%, 75% Gitutu and 25% of the new crop, and do that for a week. Then maybe the next week I go to 50-50. Then my final week, I go to 25 Gitutu, 75 the new coffee. Then I run out of Gitutu and I'm all into the fresh coffee. And I've sort of gradually created a feeling of consistency for my customers, even if the reality is that I switched it and it tastes different now, but it took a month to get there rather than just overnight.
Yeah, it's always the strategies, right? Because sometimes when you are lucky and you have somebody else profiling for you,
Yep.
and you can always, I remember when I used to work with Shelby, like we always try to do something in the hooky before we put it on production, try
Yep.
way different rows, copy it together and define what's better. So
Yep.
we can prepare for the production. But that's awesome. But sometimes when you use this type of coffee that use for multiple blends, if you forget to order this, then is when you have to start using your most expensive coffees to satisfy orders
Yep.
of blends. And
Yeah,
that's
so
what is
forecast can be super important because, yeah, this might have been a coffee landed in your warehouse for $3 a pound, right? And
yeah,
the next Kenya in your position might be a $7, like,
yes.
Kenyan auction coffee that it's
And
gonna hurt.
sometimes we roasters oversee this. Oh, it's a blend that is gonna be okay. I just order it, it's gonna be fine. And a big order comes in, then you see just one bag. I have 3 weeks with one bag.
Yeah,
That's when you have to say, I have to sacrifice cost and
yeah,
use the single origins or your micro lots just because you don't have anything else to satisfy these orders. And sadly, the reality is more blends are always the biggest orders that you get through your wholesalers. So it's just it's a painful reality that I bet
it
all of
is.
us have gone through.
But boy,
Right?
another good practice, right? It's like that green coffee buyer should probably sit on a sales meeting every couple of weeks at least, because it's really helpful as a green buyer. I found if I hear that, boy, we're looking at bringing on a new bakery and they have 7 locations and we expect to sell, 50 to 70 kilos or like 100 and to 150 pounds of coffee to each location every week. Boy, that's a lot of volume that I need to start buying for.
And also the buyer should be always be looking at production reports. It's
Yeah,
something super important. He can always look weekly, what are we roasting the most,
yeah,
right? Why should be roasting the most? And it's such a tool, an information that which ones are we roasting the least? Which
yeah,
flavor, what, let's see what it they tasting like. Why are we roasting it the least amount,
yeah,
right? Should we, maybe I should not be buying those coffees that much anymore and
yeah.
see how to, what are we roasting the most, so I will be looking for more of those flavors, right? And it's such a tool that's why maybe sometimes we is in this season that is so busy, people don't have time to talk to each other or meetings. But this tool Cropster can help you just like a head roasted green buyer can be looking, what are we my production, what I'm moving the most, why if I'm roasting this much this week, this is my inventory is going to reduce in 3 weeks, so I need to prepare for that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that, all those tools, it's amazing that if each persona, each member can visualize their needs here and what actions to take, which
no, I love
protocols
that.
to follow. Uh-huh.
I mean, that's a good segue into this next topic, which is production planning, right?
Yeah,
Because already, like, we had our attendee Shelby share that, it's about an hour on a production day just to get things prepared.
going.
And again, it's like I know because I've been there and I've had like spreadsheets and
Lots of them.
complicated tools for managing this, right? But it's like the example that I like to give is, well, what if I have, and that Gatutu that we were just looking at is a perfect example. That was a coffee that was used in 2 blends. It was sold as a single origin and it was sold as a single origin dark roast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that becomes a complicated production plan, right? If I have orders coming from wholesale accounts, I have orders coming from my website that are going to consumers. So I've got 5-pound bags, I've got 12-ounce bags, I've got packages to prepare, labels to print. As Shelby says, printing labels and organizing it can take hours kind of on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But just with that Katutu, right? How much do I need to roast? Because that coffee is being used a lot of places. I might get, if it's 50% of my house blend and I sell it on its own, roasted with the same profile, and it also goes into an espresso blend, well, that's pretty complicated math, right? It's like, how much of this do I need to roast, given the weight loss and all of that? Of course, it can be done with spreadsheets, but who's updating that? who's importing all those orders. So again, like there's a lot of room for error if that happens. And it's just a lot of time. So, I'll share my screen for a minute and share some of the ways that Cropster can help organize a production day. And, and the simplest, it's, we have a lot of different packages, but, we have just a roast schedule available. And this would be, maybe you're using a combination of spreadsheets, maybe you're using, some other tools to kind of bring in your orders and aggregate them. Well, I can simply click add schedule. And if it's a single origin or a pre-roast blend, or if it's a coffee that I'm going to be blending after, I can just come in and say, okay, this is the coffee that I need to roast. And it's, I need 10 kgs, which doesn't work since it's a 5 kg roaster. That's what that error was from. But I can just add 2 batches and then boom, it updates my schedule and it's added that. And then when I come over to my roasting intelligence at my roasting machine, these batches are now going to be keyed up and ready to roast. So, one way where you don't just have to be standing at the roaster kind of guessing what to roast, you can actually come at this in a smart way. You can develop a plan. If you say, well, you know what, I've got an order for this right now. I want to roast one of these batches right away. I can just move this to the top of the schedule. And then as soon as I publish it, that gets transferred over to the roaster as soon as they synchronize the roasting intelligence at the roasting machine. But that's kind of like the most basic way to get a roast plan going, right, Daniel? Do you have any other comments on this scheduler?
No, I think it's always going to be, again, size to size, right? The smaller you are, more batch sizes you are going to do.
Yeah.
So, and
yep. Where, you might have multiple batch sizes.
Yeah, because it's having a full batch sometimes when you don't have shops, when you are just wholesaling, it's hard to sit down in coffee. It's more expensive than actually roasting 4 batches an hour, sitting in coffee, because if you don't sell it, you are going to lose the labor and you are going to lose the coffee.
Yeah.
So that's why batch sizes matter a lot when you are small. And more you grow, like what Shelby was, we were talking, she's always, again, as I said in the beginning, she's like my update of growing companies, like doing like almost 70 batches a day, like just all full batches. That's when you say we need bigger machines, right? That there is not a discussion of batch sizes anymore. But I think that's the most the useful way for the scheduler.
Yeah, that's awesome. And and it does get more advanced too. If you're pulling off a list of orders from, like Trade Coffee or something, right? Drink Trade, or you can also go to the orders page here, and I can just manually add an actual order, right? So when I come here, maybe the external reference is PO124, and it's for Jim's Bakery. And then I just select the products that they ordered, right? And this becomes a little bit more of an advanced scheduling tool, because maybe they ordered 25 12-ounce bags, and maybe they also ordered espresso, which they mainly brew, and they need 100 pounds of that. And then they also wanted some house blend, which they brew also in 5-pound bags, and they wanted 25 pounds of that. Right? So I just go through and I just enter the order. And then when I create it, it breaks it down here in a list of orders that have been received. Now I can convert these to that scheduler with just a click of a button. I could have multiple orders lined up there, of course. And now it's saying, okay, in order to fulfill those products, these are the profiles that you need to roast. And over here, it's telling me what coffees I need to pull, how many batches based on my typical batch size on the machines that I'm going to roast on. and I can always override this, right? Like I'm not going to roast a tiny fraction of a batch, right? I'm just going to roast one batch and probably have a little carryover. Here, I'm not going to roast 7.8 batches. I'm going to roast 8 batches. When I click update schedule, boom, it just puts it right there into that same schedule that I already had. There's that La Loma dark that I'm going to do on the ProBot. There's the other coffees that I'm going to roast here.
And if
So,
you cannot roast it today, you can move it for the next day.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I can look at, I'm just looking at this daily, but I can look at this weekly and say, you know what, we only roast on our ProBots later in the week. So I just slide those over there. And then they won't even show up for the roaster until that production day.
This is helpful also like for this wedding seasons, right? Like I want to order 300 4-ounce bags for this specific day. So you can immediately put it on the schedule.
Yeah.
You know, and you have this private label that every 3 weeks he orders like 1,000 pounds, like such a big order that impacts your production week. You can always in advance plan it. So the production roaster see it immediately. Okay, this is the week that we need to do this big thing. Let's organize the week.
They can look ahead. They can staff up appropriately on the production floor.
Yeah.
You know, and then the other powerful piece of this is, you know, I get a report that also shows me what needs to be ground and packaged. So I can start printing that and having folks that aren't standing at the roaster, but that are doing other production tasks prepared. But I did want to show kind of the final step, not final, we're always evolving this. But if you have an online store, that can also connect directly to that order module. So in this case, it's just a generic coffee roasting company. And, you know, let's say that I'm a bakery, I'm logged in here. This is my wholesale accounts. I can log in as my bakery and say, you know what, I just always order the same coffee every week. And I can just order it again. I could build a new order if I wanted, add other products to it. And just go ahead and check out. I'll show you where this all comes together in just a minute. And so you can imagine like overnight, you know, maybe most of my orders, you know, I encourage my wholesale accounts to order on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I come in on a Wednesday morning to Cropster. Now from this order, I can click synchronize. And what that does is it talks to my e-commerce store. This works with WooCommerce and with Shopify. And here you can see the order from this bakery has now worked its way in. And then it's that same process before as converting it to a production schedule, sending that to the scheduler. You can see here, it's broken it down by profile, by green coffee, by machine, by batch size. And when I do that, it puts it right into that scheduler. So my production team is now ready to start roasting it. So again, you know, an opportunity to simplify what can take hours of work. And especially when we come over here and look at like the grinding and packaging report, select the date range for that. Let's just look at the last 2 days for my roastery. And this starts showing me, again, it takes those coffees and puts them into products. It tells me what needs to be prepared as whole bean versus ground coffee and how many bags I need to produce. So again, giving me some valuable tools. And also as these orders move through the system, they go from received to scheduled to in progress. So everybody has the information to do their job. This is a major focus of work that we're undertaking in the coming year is even more improvements to that.
And other personas that can use that ordering system can be the salesperson. He can be on the road and just visit an account that forgot to order coffee. He can log in and place an order right away. Or as some shops that they usually have a lead barista that places orders. He can log in and place the order right away. Instead of sending a text message or an email that we oversee, you know, all this is going to be easier when you create protocols. Okay, if you are the lead barista, this is how you should order the coffee. This is the day that you should place your order in the system.
Yeah, and because it's all online, you can set up restrictions even. You know, if
Yes.
you have an account that you only ever want to order cases of 12-ounce bags, grocery stores, right?
Mhm,
You
mhm.
can force them to only order cases. If they have custom pricing, you can give them that custom pricing. If your own cafes, maybe you want to sell them not just coffee, but you can let them order dispersion screens and gaskets and cleaning supplies. All of that can be there too. But if your wholesale account, if that bakery that you're selling to, you only want to give them your house blend and your espresso and no other coffees, you can restrict what they see there too. So it gives you a lot of control over who can see what. But
Mhm.
yeah, but I think like just turning those features over to your own store managers if you operate your own cafes is huge. And
Mhm.
with Cropster Cafe as a
Another
relatively new
tool.
product for us, which is outside the scope of this webinar, but it really ties it all together.
Yeah, another world indeed.
So with just a few minutes to go, Daniel, maybe you can talk just a little bit about some of the tools that Cropster has for um, adding some efficiencies actually when you're standing at the roaster, right? I mean,
My
we've talked about production planning, but like what can I be doing either with Cropster or just with best practices to get closer to roasting 4 batches an hour than 3 batches an hour?
my favorite is between batch protocols. I think it's one of the best releases that we have done in a while. It's just I always struggle with that, especially when I was in a coffee shop, roasting from a coffee shop, right? When you have planned this batch protocol and it fails, what to do about it, right? But when you have it in place, you have a let's call it a profile batch protocol, and hopefully soon we can do that at Cropster too. It's just a lot easier for if I'm the head roaster, I design this between batch protocol that other people can replicate, so we can produce more coffee an hour without sacrificing quality.
So
Which is
what is between batch protocol though? Like it's a lot of jargon. So I mean,
yeah, I
can
know it's what I'm doing after I drop my batch to the next
yeah,
one, right?
yeah. I mean, I think it's like it's thinking of a roasting day and even like that profile that's drawn in the profiler, right? It's not just from the second you load the coffee into the roaster until the moment you empty the drum. It's what's happening between those times, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this idea like roasters, I think when they're training or when they're talking with other roasters, it's questions like, oh, are you charging with the temperature on the way up or the temperature on the way down? Are you charging with the gas on or with the gas off? It's all of those things that we sort of think about and do. You know, we have like a target temperature for probably air temperature and bean temperature that we want to charge our beans at,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? It's taking that and it's in roasting intelligence, helping to visualize what that looks like.
Yeah, and even when let's say I'm the quality control person, I'm copying 5 batches of the same Colombia, and 2 of them taste completely different. I can see analysis of that, and you can tell that the batch protocol was completely different, and it sets the roast a completely different idea, so it tastes completely different. So it
Do you
just
have an example of that in your demo account, Daniel?
I wish it was more more realistic. I'm gonna share it, and that's what
Okay.
I always try to tag. I have this Choco Blast blend that we just roast 3 batches of those. We are gonna do analysis because we have the gas recipe, the airflow recipe, the between batch protocol recipe, and we have what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Right? So we can see, of course, as you said, it's a demo account, so it's not like really specific, but you can see that 3 of them use a way different batch protocol. They started way different. They were approaching way different. So they behave different. Based on that, I did a different gas recipe, slightly different to try to adjust. But when we tasted, we have one that it was like more berries, citrus fruit. So it's going to tell me it's a little bit lighter. This one is more chocolate, nutty, and strawberry. So it's like good development of no light or not too dark. And then we have the over roasted one with some berries. So then we choose the one is more approachable. It's not light, it's not dark, it's just drinkable and really good, right? And then you start analyzing based on that why I got these flavors. Well, the orange, which is the one we select, it was the coldest one, longer one, and so on. So this is what it helps you. Okay, if I pick this, sorry, the red one as I want it to be my reference curve.
Yeah.
This is the between batch protocol. This right here, this gas recipe I prepared here, that's the one I need to follow. This airflow recipe, this is the one I need to follow every time I roast this coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful because it is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've stepped up to roast a batch and I'm targeting my gas at a certain setting when I charge, a specific air temperature and gas and bean temperature when I start to roast. And then I just miss it, right? Like somebody walks up and interrupts me.
Yes,
Or
a text message. I just need to answer this. Boom, I missed it.
yeah, I get busy looking at the coffee in the cooling tray and like grabbing a Quaker or
A
something.
Quaker.
And then I miss it and I've got to go back to the drawing board. And instead of having 2.5 or 3 minutes between batches, I end up wasting like 6 or 8 minutes to get it back to where I need it to be.
I'm gonna throw a tip there. Every time you take a Quaker out, stop the cooling tray. Don't take Quakers when the cooling tray is moving.
Yep, you and I probably know the same individual who got stuck by the cooling bar and pinned against the hot.
It's super important too, and it's a mental muscle. Don't take Quakers out while moving.
Yeah. 100%.
Prevention. It's all about prevention. Don't run out of coffee. It's expensive. Yeah, it's all about answering that text. Like driving saves life. It's always about prevention. And between batch protocol is that you miss the moment that you put the coffee in the hopper, you have to wait again in order to roast that coffee perfect.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's not specifically between batches, but it is like organizing your production day too. And it's, you know, for me, it starts even between batches. It starts like when I walk in the roastery and it's, you know, what do I do when I unlock the door? Right. Well, first thing I probably do is I turn on the lights. I walk over to my roasting machine. I just inspect it, right? I just make sure it was cleaned at the end of the night, that the fans are working, that the airflow is moving through it, that, you know, the chaff is empty. I think I said that. As soon as that's kind of checked out and it looks okay, I turn it on because I want to preheat it as much as possible, right? If I have an hour worth of work to do to get my production day started, I'm going to start that roaster right away and give it an hour to heat up.
And even not checking. I have friends with Lorenz that they wait for an alarm system, but sometimes he doesn't show the alarm system. They just assume it's empty. They don't want to see it. Then boom. Lorenz are good for fire, but they put away. They are like good to avoid the fire, but
it's not perfect.
That moment of no prevention is going to take you more time in production because now you have to shut off your machine. You have to take all that chaff out, the smoke in the air. So your whole production just go delay for just one simple task, check the chaff.
And I think that goes with any preventative maintenance. I mean, it could be emptying the chaff collector. It could be cleaning your cooling tray. It could be cleaning your exhaust. It could be putting machine oil on the bearing. It could be greasing the chain. Like take care of those things when they're due, because if something goes wrong, it's going to take you way longer to fix. You know, you don't want it to be unplanned.
And that's where efficiency just
the hour while my machine is heating up, right? That's where I have the time to like open Cropster and look at my production report and plan for the day.
Even planning for lunch times.
All of my coffee. So all of that coffee is staged and ready to roast back to back to back.
Lunch times too. When I was roasting at Huckleberry, I remember as soon as you take the lunch, another person comes and roast. The floater comes and roasts what you eat lunch. So it's the machine doesn't stop. So you can finish on time for deliveries, for shippings, for all that planning. All that is super important. Lunch times.
Yeah, and even like, you know, a company that I worked for years and years ago, Batdorf and Bronson, nobody was like a full-time roaster. Everybody had multiple responsibilities because I don't know about you, but for me, and I wasn't a roaster there, but as I became a roaster, 8-hour roasting day is brutal. Like my senses, like I'm paying too much attention with all of my senses to be able to maintain it over 8 hours. So I think roasting like 3-4 hours and then having somebody else step in and continue the roast day is also a key to efficiency.
I think because we are talkers, the people that don't talk, there are some people that are perfect for that job. I'm just so much always need to talk. So it's
Yeah.
hard for me to stay 8 hours, but I agree. The best thing is always to have more than one person roasting. It's
Yeah.
gonna help people having vacation. It's gonna help people having like lunch breaks, and the efficiency that like it just keeps going, right?
Having a life, doing something else interesting that they're interested in too. I mean,
Yeah.
So, well, that's cool. This has been fun. Wow, we've been talking an hour, Daniel.
It's crazy, right? And I have so much more to say, but I know it's always so hard.
Yeah, I think we did a nice job though. And I enjoyed talking with you about this and getting your perspective. I wonder if any of our attendees have any questions that they'd like to just share in the chat. We can take a few minutes to answer them.
And we just talk about having 8-hour roast days. Shelby just tell me like, hey, 8 hours is a dream. Sometimes you roast 10 hours a day because that's the biggest production, the season, and you have to just work.
Right.
Another thing is batch sizes. That helps you. Yeah, we talked it already though, but efficiency in batch sizes, how you can set your production to the most efficient batch size.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. We'll I guess thank everybody for attending. If you have questions, you have about a minute to ask them, and Daniel and I would love to answer them. We can take more than a minute to answer them, of course, but we'll give folks a minute. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about Cropster, if you want to book a demo, if you want to talk to Daniel one-on-one about, or another sales rep at Cropster about the tools and what we can do, you can scan this QR code, or you can go to cropster.com/contact/book a demo and schedule a time to sit down with somebody for a training or a demo.
And if you are currently a customer, we also, if you don't have a question today, we have a whole team called Customer Success is ready for you to help you and set you and your team up to date of what we are doing right now, and new releases and work around. Like
there's always an evolution of Cropster and what we're providing. So
that we are here. We answer the phone. We are ready to help. Like we know how important is a roastery when it's down. We know when a roastery is down how important it is, and when somebody new, you hire a new roaster, they need to work like how Cropster works and all that. That's what we are here for, to help you.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any questions coming through the chat or the Q&A. So I just want to thank all of you for attending. And thanks for joining me for this today. We will have another webinar coming up soon with a slightly different topic. We're going to talk about stock keeping units and sort of tying Cropster and not just Cropster, but generally it's kind of in the same theory of like running a well-organized business. And one of those is like organizing your products in a way that you think about stock keeping units that prepares you for things like barcodes that grocery stores are going to want. So we'll have a blog post coming out about that soon, and we'll have a webinar on December 15th. So hopefully you can join us for that as well. Let me check the date. I'm famous for misquoting dates, but nope, the 15th, with my colleague Kelsey, who is really the expert on Cropster e-commerce and all of those details. Great. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank
Shelby,
you.
thanks for sharing so much about what's happening in Huckleberry. And it was great seeing everybody else as well. So we will leave it up to our producer, Hannes, here to take us out and wrap up this webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.